Okay, as promised, this is a quick replacement video for the really bad quality one I recorded probably about 6 or 7 years ago, which shows what was intended to show what a working Zaxxon soundboard should sound like and how to quickly go through and test all the sound effects. I say intended to because, as is the way of things, when you get a board off the shelf that's been on the shelf for a long time, more often than not it's died for some unknown reason. Same with this, the board isn't booting, probably because I need to go through and reseat all the ROMs because they're in crappy single wipe sockets. But that doesn't actually matter with the Zaxxon because this board here is the soundboard. Unlike more modern games, this uses basically discrete analog electronics to generate the sound effects, rather than using a single sound chip like you would get on a more modern game. So, pros and cons. Probably the biggest benefit here is that the sounds are pretty much independent of the rest of the board. The rest of the board can be stone dead, and as long as this has power, all you need to do is trigger the right sounds. Now, on a working Zaxxon, the sound request data comes in on this ribbon cable straight into this 8255 chip, which sits in this socket, and all that does really is interface between bytes of control data coming in here, and it effectively just pulls down certain pins which feed off into the analog circuitry which generate the sound effects, and those are built up using lots and lots and lots of discrete components, so lots of capacitors, resistors. If those do drift or go bad, they will change the sound, but they probably won't kill it totally, although I guess it's possible. Lots of op amps. Also, you'll find there's a fair number of analog switches that effectively cut the sounds in and out. It's worth having a look at this because the sound effects as labelled in the schematic are a little bit misleading because they're not really what you'd expect, and some of them aren't actually there. So what I'll do is I'll step through the sound effects and how they should sound and how to trigger them. Now bear in mind we're looking at this chip from the top down, so pin 1 is here. Pin 1 goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down to pin 20, and then across the way we get pin 20 and then all 21 and all the way up to pin 40. So according to the manual, pin 1 should be ship player D, pin 2, 3 and 4 should be C, B and A. Now maybe on different games this platform that did do something, but on this there's only one sound for the player's ship, which is kind of the engine sound, and you get that if you ground pin 1. And by ground, what I'm doing is this probe is actually connected to crocodile clip, which goes back to basically power supply ground for this board. And what I'll do now is I'll stop kicking the tripod and just connect this pin to ground, and I'll shut up and you can hear the noise. There's that kind of windy, rockety sound effect. If I go through pins 2, 3 and 4, nothing. There's nothing there. I don't think there's any circuitry on the back of this coming out of those pins to do anything. The schematics are probably largely borrowed from an earlier board, or perhaps the schematics were drawn up before the game was really finalised, so the labels are there but there's nothing actually built in. So pins 1, 2, 3 and 4, only pin 1 does something, and that's the engine sound, so that sound there. Moving on down, pin 14. Now I said in the thread on Clov, please don't go poking around through all of these pins. They're not all output pins. They don't all generate an effect. Connecting some of these pins to ground will actually cause some of the tracks on the board to vaporize because effectively you're shorting out the power supply. So I wouldn't recommend going poking around unless you know what you're doing, but pins 1, 2, 3 and 4 are outputs. Only pin 1 does anything. So stepping on down to pin 14, which is what the manual calls, or the schematics call, the shot sound effect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that sounds like this. Now that is probably what the original poster on the thread was trying to track down. He was looking for the laser sound effect, and again, the sound effects of it are labelled a bit misleading in the schematic, but shot is on pin 14, and it sounds like this. Sometimes double triggers as I take the probe off, but a single shot, it's basically that. Pins 16 and 17 are alarms 2 and 3. There doesn't seem to be an alarm number 1. So if we go down to shot on 14, 15, 16, alarm 2, just a single beep. Pin 17 is alarm 3, so step down one more. A much more high pitch beep. The rest of the pins on this side do something else, or they're not referenced by the design or the schematic, so we step over here. Pin 21 is not connected to, or I wouldn't poke around in it, I don't know what it is. Pin 22 is the S explode, which I'm guessing is ship explode. A muffled explosion, which is a ship exploding. Pin 23 is M explode, which I'm guessing is missile. So a much more brutal explosion. Pin 24 not used. Pin 25 is cannon. So not really a cannon sound if you ask me, more like a missile launch. So pin 37, if we go all the way up, I'll just actually count down from this end. 40, 39, 38, 37. This is what the manual calls battleship. Just a tone or a sort of klaxon. Now pin 38 is what is the manual labels as laser, and if you look at the schematic, all that pin does is go through an inverter and turn on an analog switch. So I kind of suggested that because it's upstream of a sound generating circuit, that will just sit there producing a tone or a warbling noise or some continuous noise, and then the board will basically turn it on, or basically connect it through when it's needed and disconnect it when it's not. So didn't really look like it will be a single shot laser sound effect, and sure enough, pin 38 is this. And that's supposed to be laser. I don't think so. So potentially the thread this is going into, where the guy was looking for the laser shot, he has spent a fair amount of time replacing all the parts in the circuit based on the laser title, but that's probably not what he's looking for, because I think the thread said he was looking for the sort of the shot sound. So laser, not really a laser. 39 is base missile. A very long-winded launch of something. And pin 40 is homing missile, so kind of an angry squealing noise. So yeah, that's a quick intro to how to trigger the sound effects and what they should sound like. I'm pretty sure this board is fine. It was working fine when it went away, so I doubt there's anything wrong with it beyond needing some chips reseated. I've reseated the cables, but it's a bit of a pig to get this board apart in a hurry, and it's well past 11 PM here. So I'll just step through them again. So pin 1 is the player ship noise. And we go down to pin 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, it's sometime since I played Zaxxon, but that's called shot according to the schematics. 15, nothing. 16 is alarm 2. And pin 17 is alarm 3. There's nothing called alarm 1, so I have no idea. Pin 21 not used. Pin 22 is ship explode. Pin 23 missile explode. Pin 25 is cannon. And all the way up this end, the last 4 pins, so pin 37 is battleship. Pin 38 is called laser, but actually sounds like this. Pin 39, base missile. And pin 40 is homing missile. So yeah, just to reiterate, don't go poking around in all these pins looking for things that do interesting sound effects, because a lot of these pins will either do nothing or you will damage the board by shorting them out to ground. Yeah, I hope that's hopeful. I hope the sound quality on this recording is decent enough. Yeah, good luck with the repair.